GTM Production presents Tom Mason does an interview with. Hello and welcome back to the Weird Side. Yes, the channel has lost its meaning because the name no longer makes sense. But there was a dream, there was an idea, and it fell apart very quickly because I'm a genius and I come with other ideas a lot quicker. And today we are back doing more amazing, excellent interviews. Yes, eating that dictionary did pay off, but I got bored of it, so I stopped eating it. It's a little bit too dry and too papery. Well, it could be thin, it depends on what version of the dictionary you're eating that week. I was eating the 2015 version, so it was a lot more thinner. And so we're back doing more interviews, and my guest today is best known to one generation as Geeta Chandra from the Sarah Jane Avengers, and another as Constable Habib. It's the one and only Mina Anwar.
Yay! Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm alright.
Good.
So we'll start at the very beginning because Julie Andrews always says it's a good place to start, and I seem to agree with her. How did you get into the world we called acting?
Well, I trained for many years. I've actually been a singer since I was like 4, so singing was my main love. I always wanted to do, to be honest, I always wanted to just tell stories and do science.
Yeah.
So singing jazz, singing songs, telling stories. I did end up doing my science degree later on in my life. I have a BSc in psychology, which I did much later on. But yeah, I trained. I did my A-levels in theatre studies and contemporary dance. And then I went to drama school and studied musical theatre and acting as separate kind of disciplines. And to me, that all meant that I could tell stories in many, many forms, whether it's through song or through, just classical, with my classical acting training. And then I've now been a professional actor, singer, director for about 34 years now. So I'm very pleased I'm still here doing that.
And from where your career began and where it is now, how do you think the industry has evolved since you started to where it is now?
Well, it's an evolution takes a long time. So even though it looks as if things are happening, they are actually happening quite slowly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go backwards. So you seem to be still having the same conversations, say, about like diversity and inclusivity on all kinds, whether that's with gender or disabilities, or whether it's to do with race, colorblind casting, all of those types of things. Those kind of come forward and backwards. I think we seem to think they've gone away, and yet somehow we're still having the same conversations we had when I first started in the 90s. So it comes and goes, I think, as each generation. We're now in a kind of whatever the next generation is.
Yeah.
Gen Alpha, is that it? Or somebody said the other day it was like Gen Betas, I think. But they must only be like 3. I don't think they're very old yet. But, as we go through, I'm a Gen Xer, as we go through each generation, each one of them requires different things from the industry. So I think they have different questions, and yet some of them are actually the same questions, but maybe being listened to on a different platform. That's quite positive, I think. Yeah.
And do you think that having more people join the industry and having all these questions, do you think that will help to create some sort of buzz to say we need this change a lot quicker than we're getting it?
Yeah, I think the change is the evolution of what, I mean, ostensibly art. If you're an artist,
yeah,
you want to be able to do your work in a safe environment. You want to be able to do it with people and to people that reflect the world to me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to be on stage with people and see people in the audiences that we see in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's very important. And I think those types of things we still have to keep making sure that is happening in theatre and on television, and people are being represented and narratives being represented by people who may not necessarily have been seen.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, working class working class people, working class Northerners, for instance, which is what I am, working class Northern Asian. All those narratives belong to us all. I'm also of Indian heritage. So we are very complex human beings. And hopefully we can be seen as such and not just represent one thing.
Yeah,
And I think in terms of, things that I love, which is science fiction, for instance, like with Sarah Jane or Doctor Who, I actually love the evolution of that because really those things are to do with what's possible in the world. Like H.G. Wells wrote, one of my favourite stories was uh, The Time Machine that he wrote. And what's amazing is that you think the possibilities then is infinite and endless and can be anything you want.
yeah,
And I would like to think that art would reflect that and also reflect what we are looking at now in the world, which is there's a lot of things going on that we need to talk about.
yeah. And you mentioned Doctor Who there, and that leads me fluently on to there's an area that you don't sort of you hear about, no pun intended. You hear about it in a sense of it's becoming more popular, the world of audiobooks, and I think that the when you hear the readers, if you get the right reader for the right story, it's cracking, and I think this matches really well. But what was it like narrating the audiobook for Doctor Who: The Beasts of Scar Hill?
Oh, I love that. Audiobooks, I actually do love them. They're very intense.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of concentration, but also if you have a love of that genre particularly, it makes those things come alive. I mean, I've loved Doctor Who since Tom Baker came and became my doctor, and Sarah Jane Smith, strangely, was his companion. So I've loved Doctor. I've loved the world of it.
yeah,
I'm much more of a sci-fi person than a fantasy person. You know what I mean? I'm not really into Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, that type of thing.
yeah,
But I really love science fiction. I love H.G. Wells, and I love, I like a world that looks like it might be strange and change and aliens and doing an audiobook means you can embody those characters. It requires everything that to me art is, which is play,
yeah,
which is creating all the different accents, different, and really allowing this. You have to be as engaged with the story as you want the audience to be, and hopefully it comes out really well. But it's quite intense, It takes a lot of concentration. There's just you and whoever's on the other side of the on the desk,
yeah.
and it's just I do love them. To use my voice in any way, just the voice. Like I do a lot of radio, do a lot of dramas on the radio. That is one of my greatest joys, actually. Yeah.
And do you think that do you think what the hardest bit for this one was? Do you think it was harder? There's an element harder because these characters, like as in the Doctor and then Rose, have been on TV. Do you think it was harder for you to try and work out how to best represent those characters, but still make the audience feel like it's the same world as they've seen on TV?
Maybe. I mean, I think it was particularly that one that you're talking about is because I know those characters. I know how Christopher Eccleston approached the Doctor, and I know what Rose kind of embodied. So to me, I knew almost like their cadence or their rhythms that they had. And Chris is very northern. There's a kind of there's elements to those characters that I'd already seen.
Yeah,
So to me, I just had to think about how would they react to things, and then hopefully create the audio drama that matched um, their versions because each Doctor Who audiobook is different depending on who is the Doctor.
yeah,
If you were doing a David Tennant one, or there was if you're doing um, uh, Paul McGann, they're all very different. They all have different ways of approaching the same character, which is what's so magical about Doctor Who, actually.
and I think that what you get with the audiobooks and then subsequently with the audio dramas, but you get because there's not as much time constraint with you're not working out. You need to work out the title sequence and the credits in a book form more so than an audio drama. Do you think that that's what makes the audiobook like more enjoyable because they've got more time to live in that world a lot longer than you would get on TV?
Maybe. I mean, I had this debate with people who do adaptations of novels, say for instance, for the theatre, or you know, on you have to use more. There's more description in a novel
Yeah.
because it's not visual medium. So you can do something very simply on television that you have to maybe use 3 or 4 sentences in an audiobook to describe that same thing. And that's what's so brilliant about how they're written, because the writers are amazing, you know. Whether it's like Ian Winterton or Tim Foley, their ability to create that world and use the right vocabulary. It's like music, you know. It's how they've written it. It really is people who really understand the world, and then therefore create books that are so exciting for the audience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keeping in the same bracket of universe, but one of the things that I would say that to I'm gonna assume my generation and one below and a bit above. I'm assuming I'm correct in that. I might be wrong.
I don't know.
I,
Anyway,
I don't
question.
know either. But I'll probably be right at some point. I never know anything. But what was it
You're right.
like embodying and playing Geeta Chandra in the Sarah Jane Adventures?
Yeah, it's brilliant. One of my favorite jobs of all time, I think. She was just fabulous. The thing about Geeta is to play a character that's so innocent and had her mind taken over by many aliens, nearly every series. There's something quite magical about that. Playing, it's like literally a person who is so trusting, then therefore, of human beings
Yeah,
that she could just be, you know. And one of my favorites was Russ Abbott taking over my mind when he, you know, in that episode, that was just so magical.
yeah,
I just loved her. I think she was brilliant. But the way that she was very caring, and her relationship to Sarah Jane as well was very touching,
yeah,
which meant that when, you know, when we came to do that very wonderful thing that Russell wrote as the farewell to Sarah Jane, even though we hadn't really touched on those characters for years, it was so easy to embody what I felt about, not just about Sarah Jane, but also about Liz Sladen as well. I think she was one truly remarkable human being.
and I think that and you mentioned there the Russ Abbott episode that the name escapes me what it's called, but I think it's one of the greatest episodes ever because I've seen it multiple different times. I remember half when she now had a coat on trying to leave and I couldn't leave because I was involved by it. I'd seen it 50 other times beforehand. So and it's one of those where you sort of feel that you embody it and you can sense
Mm.
but having a character like that in this sort of universe where only a selection of people really know what's going on. Do you think that that sort of helps to embody how the audience would probably feel if they didn't know something was happening but can see all these things occurring and not connecting the dots?
I think it's that what a great. It's like Doctor Who and all of its spin-offs actually are, they're great thrillers. They're just great thrillers. And the best thing about great thrillers is that it keeps you guessing right until the end. And that's what's so wonderful, because they're like little mini thrillers.
Yeah,
And each one of them, whether you're 7 or 70, you know, I just think there's something for everyone in the universe somewhere. You know what I mean? Whether you're in a Doctor Who, or whether you're in a, you know, a Torchwood, or you're listening to a Big Finish audiobook, or you're watching Sarah Jane. I think there's something for absolutely everyone who loves that genre actually.
yeah,
But the great thriller is that you don't quite know what's going on, and you want to see what happens, especially when you get a good cliffhanger as well, which we did a couple of cliffhanger ones.
yeah,
And they're very, very evocative. One of my favorite ones was that one we did in a quarry. Um, that was all very kind of, I just remember it all being very grey, and we were in a completely different time zone, and it was so like atmospheric.
mm,
And sometimes when I think back to those, because quite a long time ago now, to Sarah Jane, there's so many memories have of of Geeta being involved in so many different ways in which it required me to approach my work as well.
yeah,
You know, whether it's an alien coming out of you being possessed, or
yeah,
just being inside this beautiful scene with, you know, lovely Angeli, where she was upset, or talking to, going across the road and having a go at Sarah about some mad thing. I think all of it was just so joyful. And Russell T Davies, just God bless him for giving me that role, because it was just one of my all-time favourites.
And do you think, as an actor, that really embodied what you did, and you can showcase your different abilities? Say, for instance, obviously, if you've been taken overs, you have to play it in a different way than you would.
Mm.
Do you think that that's a good thing to showcase your ability as a variety actor?
Well, I wouldn't call myself a variety. I call myself an actor who came out with skills like that.
Yeah,
If somebody asks you to really think about what you do and not just put you in one box. That's what we were talking about earlier. I was up until that point, I was doing quite a lot of sitcom, with Ben and Ben Elton and Rowan, but I'm actually a serious classical actress as well.
yeah,
So to me, to be able to do a whole series where all of that you have to draw on your ability to think about the drama and the comedy.
yeah.
Some of the best actors, I think, who can seamlessly, you know, flit between those two things. Which a lot of Doctor Who is, actually. If you think of David Tennant or Chris Eccleston, or even the writing of like some of the like Bradley Walsh in the clown one that we did, it's that being able to not think of it in one terms, just play the reality of a situation, which is the other thing about sci-fi, is that it really requires you to really delve into the reality that maybe aliens exist, and you play that for absolute real.
And
That's a joy as well.
yeah, and what are the other areas in TV Who that you've appeared in that is also in the category of excellent because it's a cracking story? What was it like playing a different character in the episode Smile? So in the
Mm.
universe of Who?
Well, I was so happy to be asked to do that episode as well, because I was in Sarah Jane and it was so like successful and we did it for many years. I thought that I'll never get in Doctor Who now, because my character, I'm known for that one
Yeah,
character. And actually, even when I was asked to play in that episode of Smile, which was Peter Capaldi's series, we went to Valencia to film that as well, which was amazing. Um, Even then, because we always get the people who have the forums,
mm,
the Doctor Who forums, who are hiding around the corner, waiting for someone to appear and going, "How come? Maybe Geeta's in this one, or maybe it's Geeta's relative?" They were really concerned that was I Geeta, and this was my new family. Was it someone related to Geeta? Had absolutely nothing to do with Geeta at all.
yeah,
But you can't get away from it. But I've got to say, that was a brilliant. The whole of what I filmed there was done in one Steadicam shot,
yeah,
and it was very important. And it was before the music kicks in. So even though I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a wonderful episode, because that also required. It's about these emoji bots who don't understand happiness. So when this family are going through grief, they have to hide it so well from these emoji bots. Otherwise, they would think there's something wrong and then kill everybody. It's a quite extraordinary thing to then have to smile and tell someone that someone died, whilst also being terrified that someone's going to find out that you're lying. Just that, I had to really dig very deep on that, and it's a wonderful thing, very challenging and brilliant, and a wonderful episode if you've not seen it.
And do you think that because you were well known for Togechi, do you think that it was there was more pressure on you to make sure that this character was unique in its own right, and to make sure that people can see that no matter what character any actor plays in the universe can appear and can play excellent characters in other areas?
Yeah, I didn't even think about it, because if you've got great writing, which is what that was written by Frank Cattle-Boyce, that particular series, actually, I think it was like series 10, Peter Capaldi's series, each one of those writers of that series was remarkable. Mark Gatiss, the Frank Cattle-Boyce. And if it's your work is done as an actor to create a character where the writing is so excellent. I didn't really have to think about it because to me the world was different. You know, it was set in a different place. Um, you know, you can very, very easily. I could have extrapolated how Gita would have been, but it wasn't written
Yeah,
for Gita. It was written for that character in that particular episode. A completely different person,
yeah.
completely different character, and completely different person to portray. And it was, yeah, it was great.
And then now a few years on since the incredible Sarah Jane Adventures, what was it like returning as Gita in the audio universe, which was equally as fantastic and deserves more? What how do you think you developed the character to where the character would be now?
Oh, I loved it. We did when Rani Rules the World, and it was because Russell T Davis.
Mm.
Those people there keep calling him Russell T, like as if everyone knows he's called Russell T. Um, he didn't. He took him quite a long time after after Elizabeth Sladen passed away, to do anything to do with Sarah Jane because it was quite heartbreaking for all of us to do. So he didn't give permission for a big finish, but then he did because his her daughter plays Sarah Jane now. So he allowed us to do this Rani series, which I think is just brilliant
Yeah,
because she really is the successor
yeah,
who was going to run everything. You couldn't have really left it to Clive, or maybe you could have left it to Tommy, but I think she really was the glue, you know, and had all the kind of the nous going on. So for us to come back and do that, we just like jumped into that as if it had been yesterday. And Tim Foley, who wrote the episode I was in, it was so brilliant what he wrote because he wrote all of the comedy and he wrote all of her kind of strange quirks. At this wedding, we went to kind of this wedding, and it was just brilliant. But I loved it. I thought I would have liked to have done more of that. Hopefully, who knows? There might be more. You never know.
and I think because of now that we've got the conclusion to Sarah Jane's story, I think there is scope to bring the characters back in some way in the show. Do you think that if you got the opportunity to return for TV, do you think you would snap
Oh,
it
oh, in a heartbeat.
up?
Oh, I'd snap somebody's arm off for that. If Rani and Gita and that family came back to do an episode of Doctor Who, absolutely, I would love that. In fact, I think I might have mooted that to Russell on many occasions and said, you know, because I was only in the first 5 minutes of Smile, that I think somebody owes me a whole guest ep. That'd be great. Anyway, I'm putting that out there in the universe and the universe.
And so, moving slightly away from the world of Doctor Who to something that I've seen multiple times, bearing in mind multiple times in the same week. That's how
Why?
it is. Or that's just because it was amazing. I've seen it about 40 million times more. What was it like acting in the incredible Flint Street Nativity?
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, I know several people who see it will literally watch it every Christmas. And I think when we made it, that year I made two things. One was Flint Street Nativity, which was, you know, because it was at that kind of time of television when they used to make the big Christmas specials that had lots and lots of people in it that you know off the telly. And that one was brilliant. And because we all played children, putting on a nativity, and there was like me, there was Julia Sawala, Frank Skinner, Neil Morrissey. God, there was so many people in that. John Thompson. It was brilliant. And Tim Firth, who wrote that, who actually ended up writing the Calendar Girls musical and the play, and that the Take That musical. It was just brilliant. And we did it. We filmed it all in Cardiff. Strangely, we did actually film it all in Cardiff, in like this kind of weird studio that they built, where all the set was the size of the chairs
Yeah.
were made, and the toilets were made so that we looked really small kids. So the toilets were enormous. The pencils were massive, so that we looked really like 7-year-olds. You know, it was just brilliant. It was like, honestly, the best acting job, just to be there with all these. It was a brilliant writing. From reading it to the edit, not one syllable was cut out of that. He literally filmed absolutely everything and didn't edit one word out, which was remarkable. And it was just, I loved it. And people come up to me and say, "Oh, we watch it every Christmas. We all sit down." And then it became a play that then went on to be that people do at Christmas in the theatre. And that's very lovely to be original cast in the, when they have the cast list in the front of the play books.
Yeah.
It's really very, very special thing. She was just brilliant. Shamima, brilliant. Walk around with a massive battery and big wings on. I mean, what's not to love about that?
I do think that it captures that. It captures not only the comedy, but the warmth of you sort of. It's like when you watch Nativity, you sort of feel that, oh yeah, it's all sparkles and shine, no pun intended. But it utilizes the aspect of that. But when you watch this, you can sort of feel the warmth of. You all know that the actors will have gone through this in their lives, and they're drawing on some past, like,
I do love it.
experience.
Yeah, because you get all the kids going, "Well, I'm not talking to her. We're not talking to her anymore." And all like, "Oh," and the nativity itself, where we're up trying to get. And what's amazing about it, it's like there's an old like Hollywood film where you only see like people's feet.
Yeah.
And you only see the teacher's feet. So you never see the grown-ups at all. You just hear the voice and see the feet, which is quite nice because then we're in perspective of the fact that we're only like up to their knees or whatever. And that's what's so lovely because it's just literally kids trying to run like a kid's world with all its own politics and silliness. And also everything has like deep consequence because the jeopardy's high for kids, whether you're not allowed in a group or nobody wants to sit with you because your mum's made you carry a battery around. Like it's just I must watch it again. I think it's quite a brilliant thing.
And I think that one of the things that captures the amazingness is that every so often you sort of get Frank Skinner recreating a question of sport just by himself, and I think that adds to the.
I love it so much.
That makes no sense, but perfect at the same time.
And Mark Addy's character saying, about his grandma living in Heswold, and I looked on a collar. It said, "Oh, she was only size 18." Or whatever. It's brilliant because each one of those characters has their own. And then what's amazing, if you've never seen it, which you should, is that then we all play our parents at the end, and then you suddenly realise where these kids, who these kids are, because how their parents react to each other, And Shamima's mom is particularly snobby. Say snobby, I can say snobby. Moss is very good. I loved it. It was brilliant.
Yeah. And do you think that it shows how great it was that it's expanded into the world of people putting it on? Do you think that shows that not only were you lot brilliant, but the writing was so good that people thought we need to stage this?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, it was absolutely made. It's made for the theatre. It was made for it to be a stage play, And we almost filmed it as if it was like a stage play, really. Yeah. And I just think it stands. I actually think that at the time it was quite overlooked. Yeah. I think now, if it was now, it would have been up for like a BAFTA or something for something. I think at the time, I think people missed it. It's like a few things on telly then. You think, oh, you missed that. And then therefore those actors, even though we're all quite well known in our own rights for our different kind of genres and programs and stuff, I do think it was missed out in terms of, it wouldn't be now. Because now it's much more about awards and things like that. But at the time, I think it was missed, and now it's become a classic.
Yeah, and this isn't marketing, but I will say it is available on DVD, and that's not me marketing it. That's me selling a fact.
And we don't get money, and we're not commissioned.
No,
and we don't work for ITV.
No. Some people wish. But I think that it works so well, and it's one of those where, for me personally, when I eventually got the DVD and I was able to rewatch it because I'd seen it years before, and I couldn't. Cause I was young and I wasn't paying them much attention in the performing arts class to what the title was. So probably another couple of ages to find it. But when I've got it on DVD, it was one of those where even though you've seen it once, which is I watched it the day I got it, I watched it again the next day, and I think it's got that repeat value of you watch it and you think it's really funny, but then you see other aspects or
Yeah,
other
exactly.
areas.
Yeah.
Do you think
And
that?
there's loads of lines in there that you can just quote
Yeah,
that just stay with you. It's like I love what growing up when I was like 11, 12, watching the young ones.
yeah,
Uh, and when you went to school, everyone just quoted the lines from every episode, and they remain classic, or Faulty Towers, or things that I grew up watching. And I think the Flint Street people literally come when they see me and go, "Oh, Shmeema's here." You know,
yeah.
where's your wings? Where's your battery?
And moving on from one comedy to another, what was it like working on The Right Way?
Well, the right way was it had a very strange evolution. So years and obviously this year is the 30th anniversary, actually, strangely, of my seminal comedy that Ben Elton wrote, The Thin Blue Line. And this year, in November, is the 30th anniversary of that first being transmitted. When I think we got about 16.5 million viewers. Bearing in mind there's only four channels then as well. It was quite amazing. 1995 it was. And The Right Way came out of Ben Elton writing another sitcom for me.
Yeah,
And it wasn't originally written for David Haig. It was written for Rick Mail originally, for me and Rick. And I think it was fantastic. It was set in a health and safety office. I do think Ben is remarkable at writing team things. I mean, look at Blackadder. It's extraordinary what he did with Blackadder and The Thin Blue Line. And The Right Way, sadly, was wasn't really given its due, even though we were sold out at every live recording. All the audiences absolutely loved it. David Haig was a master of physical comedy in that particular series, even more so than he was in The Thin Blue Line, because he was magnificent in that. And sadly, it didn't get a second series, and the press didn't take to it too well. But I think it's because they didn't take to Ben.
yeah,
They just thought, "Oh, what is this? Is it The Thin Blue Line? Is it Blackadder?" You know, it's a kind of one of them again. They didn't take it off its merit, and we did record it up in. It was one of the only sitcoms that was recorded up at Media Cities or in Manchester.
yeah,
So I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Ben was remarkable writing that, and I feel very privileged that after The Thin Blue Line, that I not only get one sitcom written. Well, the first one wasn't written for me because I had to audition, but to have a Ben Elton write you a sitcom is a privilege, and he's wonderful, great human being.
And do you think that the issue with the industry is the fact that the audience may love the thing, but the corporations take what the critics take to heart and go, if the critics aren't enjoying it, we might as well not. Do you think that that's the
Yeah,
downfalls?
a little bit. I think sometimes Ben did what one of the inaugural Ronnie Barker lecture, right? So there's these they were starting these Ronnie Barker lectures where people could talk about whatever topic they wanted. It's a bit like a TED talk.
Yeah,
And Ben did the inaugural one, and it was about the beauty and skill of the live sitcom, which to me is one of my favorite things I've ever done in my career. I'm so privileged to have been at a time and an era that had live studio sitcom, because it was a complete hybrid of television and theatre, which for theatre actors was just wonderful.
yeah,
It's a wonderful, wonderful medium. I'm so privileged to be able to have done not just one, but about four of them. And he wrote this lecture, and what he wrote about particularly was the fact that you can't, you like, if you listen to an artist with music and who's written an album, they've written that album on purpose.
yeah,
They're not just like, let's take this one song, not like now with streaming where you can just go, oh, I'll just cherry pick my songs off an album. You know, if you listen to albums, you listen as a fan, you would listen to the whole album. If you were a Kate Bush fan, for instance, you'd listen to the whole album. And he wrote that in kind of connection with sitcom, that you don't just watch the first episode and go, oh, I like it, I don't like it. Because actually, the ones that he were writing were really like evolved, you know. The sitcoms really were about getting to know the characters. And you do get to know the characters after, you know, 6 episodes or whatever. You get to know them more. But the press jumped on one episode and decided they didn't like it. So therefore put it out there that it wasn't very good. And actually that's really sad, because audiences now unfortunately take a lot of stock in what critics say.
Yeah.
But you know, you never know what's. I always say, like within the theatre, when I do a lot of theatre, which I do, like this year I did a 70 performance tour of Shirley Valentine. And I don't really read reviews, because I think if you believe the good ones, you have to believe the bad ones. But every night you've got punters coming and watching you anyway, you know, who may or may not read things. So the performance you give is for that particular evening. I don't listen to critics. I don't. But unfortunately, a lot of producers do, you know, and that makes our job very hard to do anything new or anything that's kind of risky or not going down a path that's not, you know, well trodden. You want to do that as an artist. You want to be brave and have people back you. But unfortunately, that's one thing in the industry that is quite challenging, is people getting funding for those types of things, you know.
Yeah, and I think that with a lot of TV now, you get a sense of, you watch the first series and go, some people might not like it, but then you know that you might not like the first series, but if it gets a second series, you end up liking it more because they've realised what the audience have said that they didn't like and tweaked it. Do you think that
Yeah.
that's why comedy should always be commissioned in a 2-series bracket, so that then the writers know that they can develop the characters, and if the BBC are not too happy with that, they can tweak it for the next
It
one?
would be nice. There's only one other sitcom I did that was about the NHS years ago with David Mitchell, David Mitchell, and Ed Emerson. And that was a brilliant series that was so ahead of its time, about the NHS and what was going on in there. It's really interesting. It was written by GP. And that didn't get the audience, and they shoved it on at a certain time. And you just think, how sad. That was so brilliantly written. But people making their minds up before an audience has even had the chance to love it or not love it, it takes that choice away from me as an audience. Do you know what I mean? I know it's lovely to have like film critics going, watch this film because it's great. Don't watch this film, I didn't like it. You think, well, you might not have liked it, but I might like it, you know.
Yeah, and you get that. So the one thing I can think of that really you can sort of see the tonally shift from the audience and the critics is the Full Monty series. Is you hear the critics say that, oh, it's dreadful, it's awful, but then me and then a few other people that I somehow know ended up liking it, and you can tell the sense of that critic has made it clear to the public instead of giving it time for the audience.
Exactly.
So I think that what should happen is critics shouldn't release them until enough and an audience has said something to them. Then the critics aren't then persuading the producers. Do you think that's what should happen?
I do think it's. I mean, that's the classic story of Aaron Paul, isn't it? In Breaking Bad, that they'd written him this character that was going to actually not be in the series very long, and then the strike happened, so therefore they put all these episodes out, and then the audience suddenly realised that they love this character so much. He ended up being in every single series, and I think, you know, we shouldn't really go off. Do the audience really like this character? Let's bring them back. I mean, maybe take some stock in what the writers are writing for that character in the first place, and make sure that it's a really integral part of the whole flow of the narrative or the story, and let an audience, you know. But unfortunately, you know, we live in a world where, you know, where people want to watch throwaway television as well. I mean, as much as I don't like any of those, like, kind of, I don't want to particularly live on ITV2. Do you know what I mean? you know what I mean? I know you know what I mean, Tom. But what's interesting about that is that they're now suddenly become the ones that we're all listening to on Twitter, or, you know, I think that's the having artistic temperament
Yeah.
and wanting to have a kind of way of being an artist who wants to do lots and lots of things. That's the world we are in at the moment, and that's very sad if we're all listening to critics who may, or listening to producers who may or may not get behind projects.
And
It's challenging for the industry, challenging.
and one of the things you've worked on that I can see why the program's beloved, and I like it, but from a realistic point of view, I can't imagine that there's still people that are willing to move there, willing to live, inhabit that sort of world. You would sort of run away from the hills immediately. What would it like appearing in an episode of Midsummer Murders?
Oh, I tell you what, that was my dream job. I know so many people who go, I really want to be in Midsummer Murders. You know, anything. And the other thing I did after that was Sister Boniface Mysteries, which was a panto episode. It was brilliant. Me and Les Dennis played my husband. Les Trice has played my husband now, by the way. Where anyone gets murdered, or and Midsummer Murders, honestly, I've got to say, it was so brilliant. The writer was great. Great Paul Gibson, who directed both of those, actually. You just, even the read-through was like, oh, I wonder what happens in this. I love anything. We love Taggart, you know, we watch that at home. Midsummer Murders, anything like that, you know, anything with where you go, who's the most famous person in this episode? They're bound to have done it.
Yeah.
You know very well. And yet in that episode that I was in called Claws Out, nearly everyone was like really well known. I thought, who's going to do it? Who's going to have done this? And even when we read the read through, I didn't even know, because I didn't read it up front. I didn't know until the end who'd done that. And that's brilliant. And you get really looked after. And we film it. They film it down somewhere near Henley or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
It's like, and where we stay, it's like a village where you could actually get murdered and nobody would notice.
Yeah.
I've got to say. Yeah. You could literally go, I wonder what happened to her. I don't know. She walked to the corner shop and didn't come back. It was a bit like that. It was very, very quiet. It was like one street and one hotel and one shop that seemed to either just opened willy-nilly when it wanted. It was a bit like a sci-fi shop. It was a bit like Mr. Ben's shop. It's like, is it there? Is it not? Is it open? Is it not? It was really wonderful. I had a wonderful couple of weeks. And it was just really lovely, lovely, lovely job. Some jobs are just an absolute joy and a privilege to be, you know, because you kind of, it's what Ian McKellen calls visiting other people's work.
Yeah.
That's what Ian McKellen calls it. When you're a guest in somebody else's show where you're not playing the lead. Because playing the lead is a real privilege and it's lovely. But being a guest in somebody else's work is also just wonderful. You meet all these, you think, oh, I've seen them on the telly for years. You know, and Neil Judgeon is just brilliant. He's just he just loves the show so much. He takes care of it, and long may he continue.
And I think he's one of those that he's counted in the category of cozy crime, which I understand it exists, and I like the shows that are in that category. Yes. But it is a little bit slightly odd that we're now just having murders in the cozy category. Like, oh yeah, I'll have a cup of tea. Or watch someone get murdered.
I remember having a chat with the producer about what happens on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And Sunday evening is people get murdered. That's Sunday evening, cozy. Oh, let's sit around the telly and watch loads of people get murdered. There's literally that's Sunday evening. Oh yeah, let's put that on. You know, when you've got Taggart or you've got I mean, Line of Duty, I suppose was not quite in there, but that's like the extreme of that going on. But cozy murders, they're not really, I don't know, but that's like an oxymoron, isn't it? To call something a cozy murder.
But I think that what I find fascinating, especially about Midsummer, is that when you think about it, but when you really think about it in a realistic point, you would think that estate agent's got a lot to do. And one of the things I was working on for quite a while, and it's ongoing, it takes forever, but I was writing a short storybook where an estate agent tried to sell a house in Midsummer. It's like trying to sell. That's the hardest bit because everyone knows about these murders.
That sounds like a brilliant thing. And then each week you go back into the history of that house, and there's so many murders.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, they're dead now, and that's a blood stain. No, 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 it might be ketchup. I'm not too
That's
sure.
it sounds like a Hammer horror.
Yeah, yeah, and it was one of those where I was thinking about it, and it's like that's a brilliant idea. No one's ever thought of having this estate agent that is he's great at his career, but can never sell a house in
Can you
mid.
imagine? And then
Yeah,
you go in the kitchen, they go, yeah. So, oh, yeah, someone was trying to do their plumbing in here and got murdered.
yeah,
Yeah. Somebody hit them over the head with a ratchet. Yeah.
and
Sounds brilliant. I hope we finish those short stories. It'd be great.
And as an actor, and in the British industry as a whole, you can tell that there's certain shows that when you speak to a lot of actors, they go, "Have you done a whatever?" Do you think that Midsummer is in the category of, "Oh, have you done a Midsummer?" Like when they say, "Have you done a Doctor?"
Yeah, it was. It was for a long time. And it was it unfortunately was gate. There was a gatekeeper to Midsummer that was sadly not interested in lots of in other ethnicities
Yeah,
being in Midsummer for many years. That talking about conversations in the industry, that was a conversation that only happened about 10 years ago about why there was no Black, Asian, or anyone that was non-white in Midsummer, and let alone anyone with disabilities or anything like that. And this producer was actually quite vehemently gatekeeping Midsummer,
mm,
and then thankfully got removed, which meant all of us that wondered why we'd done a Casualty or we'd done a Holby or we'd done The Bill
yeah,
could never be in a cozy crime drama.
yeah,
And then suddenly there was like, it was like news, the first Asian in Midsummer. It was like, how is this news in the new millennium? Come on. And then suddenly it's like, yeah, how nice that now we have lots and lots of different people who reflect the world
yeah,
that are on Midsummer. That's
yeah.
great.
And you mentioned Sister Boniface, which
Mm.
it's one of those programs that really confuses me because it's on at like 9 p.m. on the drama channel, then on 2 p.m. on BBC One.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
it can't decide what its audience is. But do you think that doing a Sister Boniface, because it's a spin-off of Father Brown and it's more a nun solving crimes, which I think is a cracking concept, what do
Yeah.
you think that that's portrayed more cozier than Midsummer? Because Midsummer's on at your time you expect, whereas from a BBC audience, Sister Boniface is on at that doctor's hour.
Well, maybe I hadn't really thought about it, but I don't know whether it's to do with. But look at the cozy crime women,
Yeah,
Miss Marple, Angela Lansbury in Murder She Wrote. Where were their cozy crime dramas?
yeah,
Was it the fact that it's a woman solving crimes? That fact that they don't want to go too dark, and that my character, died from eating a suspicious looking strawberry. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a bit like, oh, what kind of I mean they have to think about it, I suppose. They have to think about in terms of compliance, what is what the audience is, who's watching Sister Boniface and who's watching Father Brown or who's watching the others. But I think they're all the same audience, to be honest. And now it's just a question of who produces them, to be fair, and how much they cost to produce as to what channel they go on. Because there's quite a lot of those on Acorn now,
yeah,
which always reminds me of Acorn Antiques for some reason. I can never quite get
yeah.
my head around why they've caused, why there's like things that are like thrillers and murders on Acorn. When I seem to think that, are they spoofs then? Because they're on Acorn
Yeah.
Antiques. But actually, some of the new, like what you call cozy murder programs, are all put on Acorn now. Even Midsummer has a bit of a slot on the Acorn. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Strange name though, don't you think? Acorn. What's that?
It's like I think that when they were deciding Acorn TV and BritBox has a better sounding title to it than Acorn TV because you know what you're getting at with, but Acorn TV is more your crime from Britain and beyond, or the odd comedy that you don't expect to see on the service.
Yeah, it just literally. It sounds to me like you put your tea cozy on your teapot
Yeah,
and watch Acorn. That's true.
yeah,
That's what conjures up in my
yeah,
head. And
yeah.
get some nice biscuits while you're at it, a family circle, perhaps.
Well,
That's to me what Acorn it'll change.
Yeah, they'll
But
have to
they
just
can't call it like knife or, you know what I mean? They can't be like, it's really on the nose with it, hammer.
yeah,
It's not like Hammer Horror.
yeah.
You can't call it that, but
No, because on it you can 1 minute you can watch some brutal murder in Midsummer, and next minute you can watch Larry Lamb in a cat fight. It's like two completely separate
yeah,
things.
it's something for everyone.
Yeah,
If
and
you can find the channel.
yeah, and do you think that having shows like Sister Bonifast, Father Brown, Shakespeare and Hathaway's Private Investigators, these titles are getting too long, Midsummer Murder, do you think that they're a, because they're still around, unlike Doctors, which needs to return?
Hmm.
Argue about that to the end of the earth. But do you think having those shows is a good way to bring in the next generation of talent that are emerging on stage? Do you think that that's bringing them into those shows as an entry point? Do you think that's a good thing that they're still around?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know whether, if you think about what people want to do now, especially you've got this world of like, influencers and social media and all that. What they need to do, it's like a bit like UK TV Gold when it started making, and the Thin Blue Line was on there for many, many years, before it went onto Netflix. So you had to, so it was always known for doing, it's old stuff, it's old reruns, and then it started making its own stuff. But then what you'd have to try and is how people understand that they're making their own stuff, and it's the same with these channels really, and these programs. How do they become still relevant? But there is a demographic of an audience that still needs to be catered for that somehow gets maligned and doesn't have these new channels to cater for them. And I think there's lots and lots of people who really want to still watch great television, whether it's new stuff or old stuff.
Yeah,
And that is for them.
yeah,
And whether the new actors, I think it's great to cut your teeth on something where you learn camera
yeah,
and television technique and stuff, because they don't do a lot of that in drama school. I think it's great. It's great grounding. You don't have to be, because there's no bill anymore. Holby's gone. You know, what you want to be able to do is to be in a whole episode of something, or just play like a small character on Sister Boniface or Father Brown or Midsummer. And what's new now? They've got the new Taggart, and they've got loads of new things coming out. There was also like Morse and those things. Um, I think it's really it's good to have television. America do it so well. They have loads and loads of shows where you can go and be a guest on, like loads and loads of different things, and they don't particularly shove them onto a channel that nobody watches them.
yeah.
There's more choice there, I suppose. Yeah.
And I think that having that entry point in all categories, not just in the English sector of what you call the United Kingdom, and I think having shows like Hope Street as well being that's ultra bright, vibrant. Someone's kidnapped a kayak, and all the police that are there have to go and deal with it. The four of them that exist in that one.
Yeah.
And having that is, even though it might not be to everyone's taste,
Mm.
you can sense that those people are going to be huge stars because they're holding their craft on.
Yeah, look at who was in like Call the Midwife, or those ones that like there was the Land Girls one, and for many many years there's been loads and loads of those types of
Yeah,
things on the radio.
yeah,
There's been afternoon dramas where people go, oh, I'm on this, I've got a chance to do a bit of radio, go and be in an afternoon play, and I think they're really good things to have, and I really do really wholeheartedly think that the audience who want that kind of nostalgia and want to sit still and watch afternoon television, I hope they're still catered for somewhere and with good quality. You know
yeah,
what I mean? That producers and execs still believe that the quality of those programs matters.
yeah.
You know.
And you mentioned their radio drama, and I'm now. I know I started this into quite well, but hey ho. But we move into the world of radio with radio comedy. What was it like working on what I like to call the interesting, the unique artists?
Oh, it's brilliant. Oh, I loved artists. Oh, you're very good with your knowledge there. So there was me, Ben Miller. It was written by a producer of BBC comedy, actually, Gareth Edwards. He's produced loads of things. At the time, he was producing live duos like Mitchell and Webb and Parsons and Naylor, which I did quite a few guest roles on their radio shows. And he wrote this thing called Artists, and it had Ben Miller in it, and me and Polly McLean, and quite a few other people. And I think we did 2 series quite a long time ago now. But we just, to be able to sit in a room with that many kind of comedy people, it's like, and I'm in a series called Fags, Mags and Bags, which is on Radio 4. That is, to me, the greatest sitcom that's never been on television. That's now had like 11 series. And I was a fan of that series before I was even in it. And now I'm a regular, which is like impossibly brilliant thing. And can't wait. We go and record it in Glasgow every year. And I just think to be able to do those things, to sit with those comedy minds is just an absolute privilege and a joy.
Yeah.
They're just wonderful. Wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Really, really great.
And you mentioned you mentioned Fags, Bags and Mags. It's
Mags and Bags.
It's a really long title that's easy to get wrong in many different
ways. Yeah, exactly.
But it's one of those that because it's the premise is really good, and because it's on the radio, you sort of got to imagine things. And for me, what I can picture is Still Game. It reminds me a lot of Naveen's shop in Still Game, and it reminds me a lot of that. And
Sanjeev, Sanjeev, who plays Ramesh,
yeah,
is Naveen.
Yeah.
So he's the same actor.
Yeah.
But and he's also the writer with Don McCleary of Fags, Mags and Bags. And like you say, the sitcom element, which is the situation is a shop.
Yeah.
And therefore the characters in that shop are manifold, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can have many, many people who come into that shop. Yeah. You can have many ways in which they interact with each other. There's the family unit. There's this odd man who sits in the corner called Dave, which is like he just is the person who sits in the shop, and nobody really, questions that. It's just wonderful. And I was always hoping that it would get on television because I think it's one of the greatest sitcoms ever.
Yeah. And
it's on radio.
Yeah, and you can sort of sense that when corner shops were as big as the ones were, probably not as popular as the ones were, but you can sort of tell that certain scenarios, like a regular that always buys that radio time and has that, and then they always try to persuade her to get some other thing and getting it.
This is Burkett coming in and complaining about absolutely everything.
Yeah, and you can sort of sense that that's real. Do you think that that's why it was successful and why it still is successful? Because you can tell that is something that happened to the writers, but it also will have happened to your grandparents, your parents, someone in your life where you will have witnessed that.
Maybe, yeah. It's a bit like Open All Hours, Ronnie Barker and and that had a spin-off years after Still Open Hours of David Jessen. But I just think, firstly, I think the writing is genius on Fags, Mags and Bags. I used to listen to, couldn't wait for a series of Fags, Mags and Bags to listen to it on the radio. This is before I was even in it and played Malcolm. Just to go, that makes me cry laughing. Like a radio sitcom that makes you, it's a bit like Ed Reardon's Week. Yeah. I did an absolute privilege of doing one episode of that. It makes you cry, but laughing because it's so quick. It's so sharp. And their knowledge of 80s television and just this kind of era of old radio, old television, old stuff, packets of crisps, flavors of crisps for over the years. Do you know what I mean? The knowledge is extraordinary. So you just have so much nostalgia in there. And you've got these brilliant characters that they write all the time who are slightly like off the wall.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. You don't know what an episode's going to be about,
And again, I'm not paid to promote it, but the first, the whole, most of it, don't think every series, but most of it, in 2 different volumes, is available on Audible. I am again not promoting it in a sense of not being paid. It's just brilliant, and that's where you can.
Yeah. And Fags, Mags and Bags, you can listen to all of it on BBC Sounds.
Oh, that's even better because
Yeah,
that requires less paying.
that's it.
You still pay your TV license, obviously, but it's less paying.
Yes. Listen to it all from the beginning. And then I'm in, I think, series 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I play when a woman comes in called Malcolm. That's me.
Yeah. And why do you think now and a bit before, why do you think the radio comedy is becoming this juggernaut again where you can point out several big heavy hitters that are so popular? Why do you think now is the golden era for comedy on radio?
I don't know whether it never was. It always was for people who listen to the radio. For me, radio just is so wonderful. You know, it's such an extraordinary medium. And I have had the privilege of doing radio in many, many forms over since the start of my career. You know, I used to do time and tune as well, which is like teaching kids music and rhythm on the radio for kids radio. Children's radio was something I grew up with. I learned to read music and enjoy music and understand how music and movement should be part of everyone's life through the radio. And the fact that then I got to make that type of radio for kids is amazing. I think, and radio afternoon dramas, or whether it's like, you know, The Archers or whatever, I just think people just want to sit. They still want to sit. And you know, so it's like audiobooks now. Audiobooks is like gone bonkers, isn't it? It's amazing how people go, oh, I'll go for a walk because I'm going to listen to this audiobook. I'll go listen to the chapter. But that's what most of us were doing, listening to the radio. I'll go for a walk and listen to the next episode of something, or listen to that afternoon play, or that sitcom that's on at 11:30 in the morning. Radio is wonderful, wonderful medium because it does so much for people. And now you can get, you know, if even if you've got like hearing access needs, there's many ways now that you can visually listen as well. And I think that is a wonderful thing. Yeah. I hope even if I live that long in my 90s, I'm still doing radio. You can't retire, hopefully, from radio.
No, and well, we all know. I think she's called June Spencer, retiring from the Archers at 99. I mean,
exactly. Liz White, loads of people. I just think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
and also not just the radio dramas. I co-produced a series called Essays that are on Radio 3 that are really interesting. The one I co-produced was about a deaf actress who in 5 or 6 episodes just talked about her life and her kind of particular needs in the industry, and also how deafness has been and BSL has been something that they've been advocating for to have be more available.
Yeah.
And that's on Radio 3, and that even producing radio is amazing, you know.
Yeah.
It's just such a wonderful genre, I think.
And I think that when you look at the industry in TV, and I think that from what you were just talking about, you can see that there was a really good sitcom on. It was on Together TV and Film 4, but it's part of the BSL zone called Small World, where it's like a group of deaf people live in a house together. One of them can talk and partially deaf, but the rest of them are completely deaf. And then you've got Ben Rufus Green, who's a fucking actor walking in, knowing no BSL, being the idiot of trying to work out what's going on. And then I can't remember the actress's name, but then she ended up being a pathologist. I think that's the job title in the Chelsea Detective.
Wow.
And it's one of those that you see that because that was like 10 years ago, and the Chelsea Detective is still on now. You can see that from that aspect that the industry is growing in a sense that she was able to use her skills from Small World, which was lower budget production, to show her skills in a high end drama that is fantastic. And do you think that's the positive of having smaller companies in this industry, because you can try out your teeth in a world that is yours and enjoying it and be able to use that skill in a new in a new environment.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to right back to the beginning of our interview, which is how does the industry need to see the narratives that belong to different people? You know, it's like that series called Patience,
Yeah,
where there's the girl with autism who helps the police look for her. See, that I don't even think that would have been made like even 5, 10 years ago.
yeah,
But now what's interesting is how do we look at people's needs? How do we reflect that people in different industry could actually have been precluded from those industries actually?
yeah,
So is it the fact that we need to have narratives that it's like in Hamilton he says, "Who tells your story?" What you want
yeah,
is to be able to tell your stories in a very real way that reflects the world. And that series Patience is very good, you know. It's really interesting. And it's interesting that someone made a spin-off from Small World
yeah,
and that someone thought, oh, that might be quite interesting to put them. But they might have not been an immediate trajectory
yeah,
because the industry didn't support it at the time. That then there was an avenue of someone going, did you see that character in that? Maybe we could like do that again. But maybe now there was more people get behind it, more producers who think, do you know what? Maybe there's a need for that. Maybe there's an audience for it.
yeah,
I think everyone needs to, and I think it's the same with lots of things, whether it's to do with diversity or to do with, I'm Asian, a woman from the north. There's lots of things where you think, what, how can I represent my narratives? I have many, many narratives. I want to be able to portray all of them.
yeah,
And I also have a narrative that belongs in in all of the classic Shakespeare or Ibsen or Beckett things that I studied that are all about the human condition. That's what my job
yeah,
is to create the human condition. And hopefully, as long as you do it with great quality and you have the skills to do it,
yeah,
that nothing should be off the table,
yeah.
you
And
know.
yeah, and moving away from TV and radio, but just a little bit. You mentioned there how you go on the stage and do plays, and you see that the theatre industry is becoming more popular, and the more times you watch, like if you watch Sunday Brunch, you'll see more actors from the theatre appearing on it. Do you
Mm.
think that doing a show, the same show for X amount of time, do you think that that helps not only to showcase your ability, but help improve your ability because you're learning from one night you might have made that mistake and you've improved it the next night. Do you think having that long run helps you improve your ability as an actor?
Well, I think you learn your craft um, as an artist on stage. I think is that who was it said the other day? One of these big Hollywood actors, I can't remember who said it. It was said that because television is a technical medium,
Yeah,
actually, it's artistic in itself, but you have to be very technical.
yeah,
Whereas the theatre is the artist's medium. I think to be a stage actor, to be able to respond in real time, to rehearse something, and to be alive on the stage every night, to respond to audiences. Every single audience is different, and to be able to create a story that with other people firstly, there's a lot of negotiation of human beings in that.
yeah,
Even if like my last thing I've just done on stage was a one woman show, Shirley Valentine. Even that
yeah.
has all its own things. That's 15,000 words of just me for
Wow.
2 hours doing about 10 different characters, and making egg and chips and making cleaning up and then going to Grace. It's like so much to navigate and think about. But the audience is the second character, the third character really, because the wall is the first character. But the audience is your other people that you respond to. If you're not on stage with anybody else, the audience is really the listening of them. But theatre, I think you learn who you are as an actor, um, or a singer or a musical. I do a lot of musicals. I train in musical theatre. You learn so much about the art of storytelling on stage that you have to pull apart when you're doing television. Is so technical. You wait around a lot,
Yeah,
and then you have to be absolutely smack bang in the center of the scene you're doing. So it's a very different game. You have to learn like the craft of look what the lens is doing, what the shots are doing. Firstly, hit your marks, and then you have to be ready to do your art. The art comes second, whereas the art comes first. I think that's my take on it. That's why I love theatre so much. When I've done loads of telly, I go back to the theatre, and and then I feel as if I've kind of, and then I do lots of theatre, and then I go back to the telly. And I'm very privileged to do all of those things and radio. And I think the wider, all I can say to young people is have a skill set that's very wide and have an ambition to do all of your art in all of its forms, because I think that's where you really is the joy of being an artist and the privilege of it. And thankfully, I'm still here after this many years doing it all. So it's been
As we've got to this point in the interview and people have got to know you more, and what upcoming projects you're excited to people to see, hear, or watch that isn't under NDA? Because I know that NDA is.
yeah, I've got a few. One of that isn't is my love of the panto. I did a panto last year that was at Derby for Little Wolf,
Yeah.
and this year I'm at Tunbridge Wells with Lee Mead in Sleeping Beauty. That's on from the 13th of December to the end of December, and I absolutely love panto because it is absolutely old school variety. I get to sing and dance everything I do and act and do, like if I'm playing a magical being. Last year I was very, very, very proud to be nominated for a Panto Award as the best magical being.
Yeah.
I was nominated for that. It was very nice, even after this many years, to be officially nominated as a magical being. It's actually, you don't get that very often. You don't get. But this year I'm doing Sleeping Beauty, so I'm playing another fairy in that is very different, more of a kind of a maybe small, slightly comedy fairy. But I do get to sing big numbers in there, get to dance. Lee Mead's in it. What's not to love about Lee Mead? And there's some other wonderful people, James Peake, Stuart McShane, who is in Andy and the Odd Socks. He's in it as well. And it's going to be marvellous. There's a couple of other things. I'm doing a couple of radio things that are coming out. There's a series I called Trust that I do with Julia Hesmondhalgh. We're on like series 5. That's set in a school about an academy. Well, that's a very different kind of character. That's a very kind of school setting. Quite serious things. We talk about things that are really happening in terms of academia and schools and academies and funding and Ofsted and all that. That's coming out later on in the year. There's another sitcom I'm going to be doing on the radio that I can't talk about right now, but you will hear about it very soon. And we're doing, and there's a couple of things that I can't really talk about now. And there's a CBBC animation that that is coming out that I can't really. I don't know if I'm allowed to yet, but that is like an ongoing thing. That's a lovely little magical thing that we're still ongoing and recording voices for. Yeah, nice.
And you mentioned there about panto, and you sort of theatres do them all over the time at like Easter and at Christmas, and you can see that even though some people might say it's an outdated form, and you can see still the love.
Yeah, it's so not.
And I think that what makes it interesting, and it was a thing that I should have known, I should have just guessed, but Giles Brandreth being a massive fan of panto, creating that brilliant panto documentary for Sky Arts.
Yeah.
And him being, well, he's a massive fan of a lot of things that you look at him and think, really? But do you think the panto's still around because of it's because of most of the panto you see are well-known stories people will know, but do you think it's because it's each actor takes on that role in a different way to what someone else
does? It's again, it's the height. It's the hero's journey in a play. I said that to the other day. A panto is a hero's journey, whether it's like Sleeping Beauty, whether it's Cinderella, like going beyond her kind of the way that she's been treated to get to the end of her hero's journey. They're all brilliant, whether it's a Grimm's fairy tale, there are something in there for everyone, whether it's for the kids, for the older people, whether it's like some kind of things that jokes that go above the kids' heads.
Yeah.
You know, it's got variety. It's got drag in there. It's got absolutely everything. It's got fairies. It's got magical beings. It's got like magic. It's got like lights, dancing, singing,
Mm.
comedy, slosh scenes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't anyone want to experience that, whether it's at Christmas or Easter? Because especially like I think we all need things where we can go and be together as a family in the theatre. That it really is for everyone. You know, not all musicals are for everybody,
Yeah.
but I think all pantos are for everybody.
And I think the panto's the only time you're allowed to heckle because you are told
Yeah,
you're allowed to not swear.
exactly.
But
You know, well, you can swear if you like, you get kicked out. But some, you know, we get these schools that come
yeah,
that maybe there's a school that's never been to a panto, and the teachers tell them to be quiet, and you go, no, you must teach them that it's when we say please hiss and boo, or please say shout out, you know, buttons or whatever, please join in, because it's the only time you'll get to really join in the theatre is when you're watching something like that. And then you'll come and generations of people bringing their who used to come and then bring their kids and bring their kids. It's just wonderful. And I do hope that, you know, wherever those pantos are, again, more diversity is needed in those pantos because we all need to have everyone understand that the theatre is for them.
yeah.
If you've never been in a theatre, that's an absolute crying shame because a theatre is for community, it's for everybody.
And so, as we come towards the end of this glorious interview, without giving away your home address, where can people track you down online?
My address is, my email is, my phone number. Where what?
Where can people track you down online if you want to see more?
Track me down online. Well, I don't do a lot of social media. You can find me on Insta if you feel like. Instagram. You can find it though. I'm not going to give that out. Because and I use that for. I really like the medium of Insta for photographs and stuff. I use a lot. You can capture a lot in an image. I don't do like Twitter and things. I refuse to do Twitter anymore. X. It's become to me a little bit sinister. But I do like you can find me on things, but really, if I'm promoting something, that's where you'll find me because I'm quite a private person who lives by the sea. So work that out.
And that could be anywhere because there's a lot of sea, and if you watch a lot of crime drama,
Literally sea all over the world.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of crime drama somehow ends up near a sea.
Do you know what I mean?
Expect
Apart
it.
from Midsummer Murders, that has to be near a hedge.
Yeah, yeah. And so as always, the train of thought, that brilliant, the world of improvising, and there we have it, another excellent, extraordinary, sensational, woohoo, new,
Woo!
sensational, woohoo interview. Right, I'm a poet, and I didn't really know it. There you go. So that's what happens when you don't script much. And so,
Best thing to do.
thank you
And
for meeting you.
oh, thank you, Tom. Honestly, what a lovely. I don't normally sit for an hour for anyone. So, especially when I could be watching Midsummer Murders.
Yeah, there's enough of it.
Can I tell you my favourite program at the moment, though?
On.
It's from Australia. It's called Fisk.
Oh yeah, I watched.
Oh my God. I've now just finished series 3.
Yeah.
It's so funny about probate lawyers.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, you know, you watch Colin from Accounts.
Yeah.
Colin from Accounts and Fisk. If you've never seen Fisk or Colin from Accounts, just watch them. Half an hour of like absolute comedy genius.
And I think that this is going off a way of a tangent, but we're going to go there with Sam Campbell, who was in the UK version of Taskmaster, was in Fisk. He was in the 3rd series. He kept on using the word socks to try and catch.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love him.
He is brilliant, and he was did a documentary for his YouTube channel where he created this mascot for Alex Horn's local club, where he dressed as a massive pig.
It's absolutely brilliant.
And he went and then he made the whole joke was that legally for mental reasons he couldn't play the character, so they had so he got his friend to do it, and the end shot of this documentary is Sam Campbell watching from a distance as the pig's running around as a butcher, thinking it's a real pig, is chasing him, and it's from the mind of Sam Campbell that he's weird at the best of times, but that
Sam Campbell, absolutely brilliant. And his character in there,
yeah.
Bobby, and everyone's got walking, why is he called Bobby?
yeah.
Not for short for anything. And it's just brilliant. And the whole of that cast, I think, especially like George behind the desk with his cat, it's absolutely, it's just the whole thing. It just makes me smile because sometimes sitcoms that really make you laugh out loud are just, they're just priceless. And that really makes me laugh out loud.
Yeah. And Adrian Chen that plays George, he was in the Australian version of Taskmaster. And
really? Are they all in Taskmaster?
Yeah, well, they should all be. But he was cracking because then he went on to appear as a sidekick in a program called Guy Montgomery's Montgomery Spelling Bee, where comedians try and spell, and he's there as just this side.
I've never seen that one. I'll have to watch that.
Well, he's Adrian Chen just stands there in the Australian version. He just stands there and just does weird things whilst all these comedians they're trying to learn how to spell words. they get it wrong dramatically, and it's just brilliant. And I think
that woman who plays Roz, who's brilliant.
Yeah.
Always trying to kind of sing to herself, picture things. Yeah. She's absolutely. It's just, and not forgetting the woman who writes it and directs it and who plays Fisk, who's just extraordinary.
She was in just before we end, which is where I was heading to. She was in. She's called Kitty Flanagan. She was in the second series of the UK version of a program called The Sketch Show. She took over from Ronnie Anaconda, and she was that, and she's just a brilliant.
I love her. She's just effortlessly wonderful. Yeah. Effortless. Kitty Flanagan. I'd like to be in it.
Yeah, and. And the Colin from Accounts is also brilliant because the dog's called Colin from Accounts. It's not a bloke called Colin, and he's not from Accounts.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a bloke, it's a dog.
It's a dog. See, it's when you think about it, you think, oh, it's going to be about some bloke, but no, it's about some dog. And that is cracking. And they're all available in their own places. I'm not
in their own places.
Yeah.
You can watch series 3 of Fisk. I'm not even in it.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to watch it.
Yeah. It's on ITVX, and then on the 20th.
It is.
On 20th of August, it'll be on Netflix.
Yes, but you could just watch it on ITVX.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you don't even have to wait for it to come out on Netflix.
Yeah, it's all available now. And so, there we have it.
Lovely.
Brilliant way to end an interview.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom, for asking me. What a pleasure.
Okay. And thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And remember, no, I've forgotten.